This is a live call-in show. We'll have the number up for you right away, but we've already got people on the lines, and we're going to go ahead and get started with Greg and Eugene. How are you?
Pretty good. Thanks for taking the time to chat with me, and so sorry to be inconvenient with calling in with a mobile phone.
Oh, well, we'll make do.
Yeah, it's okay.
Okay. And by the way, just on the topic you guys were talking about, godparents, I really think that atheists could stand to come up with, or do good to come up with an alternate term, like a pasta parent, for lack of a better example, because that's something I volunteered to do for some friends of mine when they had a kid back when I was no longer a member of any organized religion, but not quite an atheist. I volunteered to be the godfather of their kid, in the sense that, if the kid needs something, needs some help, can't get a hold of the parents, I'm the guy that can come in and help, or worst case scenario, make sure that they're taken care of if something happens. And I haven't even talked to that guy in years because we had a bad incident, but if he called me up out of the blue and needed some help with his kids, I'd still do it. I just think it'd be cool if that wasn't called godparent anymore.
Well, I think we actually have a perfectly good term for something like that, and it's called a mentor.
I can dig that.
If you want to be the mentor of a child, that's great. And wouldn't it be great if we had designated people in a child's life to, instead of instruct them in the mysteries of the faith,
yes,
we could instruct them in the scientific method.
Or even beyond childhood. I think a lot of young adults, when people are hitting the outer edges of teen into early 20s, that's when you need somebody to come along that's not necessarily a parent or a family member that can show you a couple of little tricks of the so-called real world.
Yeah.
Yep.
Anyway,
so what'd you have for us?
I called in for a different reason. Wanted to talk to you guys about the concept of a soul, because I'm one of the few atheists I know, not that I know many atheists, who believes in that.
Okay.
Okay.
And first, I suppose I should start off with a definition, because that's such a nebulous term that means different things to different people. But to me, it's the biochemically generated electricity that runs my body, that causes my brain to work, that produces consciousness, which will cease to function as it currently does when I'm dead. It's basically a one-use thing that was created inside of my mom when her and my dad did the things that parents do. And when I'm dead, all of those electrons and protons will go do something else, much in the same way that when you take apart a nice sculpture made out of Legos, the same pieces exist, but that sculpture doesn't.
Sure, but you started off by saying that it's the electricity, not for example, consciousness. But in any case, I don't know what justification you have for calling either one of those a soul. I mean, we've already got a word that works perfectly well for electricity.
Well, I think that that's pretty much the only thing that to me makes sense as what is a soul, the thing that generates my consciousness, that allows that to happen, and that is a very temporary and permanent thing that's going to go away someday.
Why? I'm still not saying. It sounds to me like you like the. Can you turn down your stream, because I can hear myself echoing? But it sounds to me like you like the idea of a soul, so now you're trying to find some way to make it so that the soul is real, and you're taking the electricity in your body and relabel it.
And unmagicate the concept of the soul as a way to basically help people get over the biggest fear that anyone I know has, especially when the whole concept of atheism comes up. What happens after you die?
Well,
and that
hang on.
scared the crap out of me until I read a really great quote by Mark Twain about how he wasn't inconvenienced about all the billions of years that he didn't exist before he was born.
What the hell does that have to do with redefining something as a soul?
Because I think that a lot of people need baby steps when it comes to letting go of superstition. To quote once great poet Axl Rose, you can use your illusions, let them take you where you may.
Hey, I tell you what, if I wanted a conversation with Axl Rose, I'd go to the...
illusions to throw them all
Holy
away.
crap.
They're throwing away the biggest ones. And that's what I'd just like to put out there for people who are having trouble just redefining their entire worldview. There's a small little bridge or raft to stand on as you're floating into the river of knowledge that you can eventually hop off of on the shore to more knowledge.
Yeah, I find that notion, first of all, extremely condescending, vapid, and stupid, that we should go around renaming things, real things, with labels that have another meaning. By the way, when you call in and say that you're one of the few atheists you know who believe in a soul, and then you define soul in such a way that it actually applies to something real, but it has nothing to do with soul as it's normally used, I find that to be incredibly dishonest, and I can't believe that believers aren't going to find it similarly dishonest. Why on earth? You're saying, oh, I want to take this term that means so much to people and redefine it so that it actually maps to something real. Well, cool. Let's redefine God to mean my coffee cup. Does that actually do anything?
Actually, I've redefined God to be a psychological model for where humanity's collective head is at,
sure,
as we continue to try and pull it out of our ass, because most people nowadays believe in one God as opposed to several dozen, which tells me that humanity's maybe trying to get on the idea of everybody being somewhat equal and not so divisive, even though we're still horribly screwing it up. And I think the evolution of ideas and moving away from superstitions, for a lot of people like me, it's not just an easy way to change everything that I've ever held, and I don't find it dishonest to redefine the soul as this. I find it to be, this is the only thing that makes sense in the mystical mumbo-jumbo concept that I grew up believing as a kid because I didn't know any better. The idea that some mystical, magical, indefinable energy that will always be me exist doesn't really make sense anymore. The best I can figure out is this concept that I was told about that people have believed in for millennia since before I came along. It's an overextension of just this one element of our condition that we can't figure out, consciousness, why we're able to ask the question why we're here. And that to me, the only thing that remains as any kind of plausible or acceptable idea for the soul being real in any sense is it's our conscious identity, which is a very temporary thing, which is going to go away someday. And
didn't you also
crap out of me.
Didn't you also say that you believed in the afterlife?
In a very limited extent, it's.
I'm ready for another redefinition.
My definition of the afterlife is more likely than not when I die, I will have a very slow, delusional state, similar to what is often described as a near-death experience.
That's not after death. That's not.
Will be decomposed.
That's not after death. You said you're talking about afterlife, not the process of dying. Do you believe there's an afterlife?
In the typical definition of my identity will continue to exist forever. No.
Okay.
I believe
now
that
you also don't believe in a soul by the typical definition, correct?
No. I'm offering a new definition because new definitions come up all the time as people figure out more things, kind of like the definition that most people I know have ever had.
Thanks so much. But when you find out something's not true, you jettison it. You don't need to come up with a new label for it. But thanks a lot for calling, Eugene.